And what happened in this past year? Because as Howard was saying at the start of the conference, this is the best of times. Like, the tools that are available to us right now are not only incredible. I mean, you look back at the tools we used to use, you look at the tools we have right now. I mean, the change is like dramatic. It's incredible. And it gets better every day. So it's really exciting on the one hand, but on the other hand, wow, what a tough year this last year was for our industry collectively. Maybe not the past year alone, maybe it's the past 2 years, but this little window was probably the toughest window of time that we as a community of media researchers have weathered ever. And you can look at this in a lot of different ways. Certainly, you can look at headcount. There has been serious loss of headcount in the past 2 years. Entire divisions, research divisions have been rolled up in some companies. In some companies, divisions have been decimated. There has been very significant loss of budget in many corners. You can look at this in terms of the reporting relationships. In the past few years, lots of solid line reporting relationships have been replaced with dotted line relationships, where research and insight has become the dotted line that you kind of report on the side to, but your accountability now is increasingly shifting. And a lot of great researchers, I mean really, really good researchers, people that we all look up to, have been let go. I mean, it's a very, very strange time. And what's bizarre about it, what's so strange about it is, if you look at a high level at what's going on, it's nuts. Like, you sit down and think, there has never been a time where our industry has been in greater need of research and insight. Like, we have so many things we don't know in the landscape right now, and at that moment where our need is greatest, suddenly the resource that is actually best suited to respond to that demand is suddenly constrained. It's a very strange thing that's playing out.
There's been more change, I think, in this industry in the last 2 years than in the last 20. If you look around, ratings for traditional TV audiences are in decline. New forms of advertising, specifically programmatic, are on the rise. And as the number of pay TV subscribers decline, there are cord shavers, cord cutters, cord nevers. There's a lot of noise in the investment community about the sustainability of the traditional TV bundle, which happens to be under pressure from new over-the-top offerings and so-called skinny bundles. And all this has put downward pressure on the stocks of these companies. And amid all this change, there exists this really desperate need for a new set of metrics to help monetize these ways of viewing. And all the while, the pace of change is accelerating. And we become more connected not just to our screens, big and small, but to the Internet of Things, and more dependent on big data to guide us. And the more I report on advanced advertising, I can't help but feeling this is a little bit like sex in high school. Everybody's talking about it, but very few are actually doing it. And even fewer are doing it well.
Lots of executives in this industry, I feel like, are making decisions based on data that's about a year old. Sometimes like making decisions based on data that's about 6 months old.
Not in this room. These are forward-thinking people. These are...
None of the executives you guys inform, of course, but others. I feel like if we could get executives to make decisions based on the world as it is today, it would be a remarkable step forward. But we've got a superpower beyond that as well, which is to stop and think about what the world might look like in the future. And there's a great quote I love, science fiction quote: "The future's already here, it's just not evenly distributed." And but it's absolutely true. Take a look at X1, take a look at the cloud DVR functionality, all the capabilities it has, and then just do a little thought exercise. Just ask yourself, what if 30% of the population had that in their household? What if? What would their behaviors look like? What would change? Some stuff won't change, I think. So, linear cable channels are a great way of doing some things. Are a great way of sitting down and saying, entertain me. Trusted brand, recommend some stuff, entertain me. I think that would never go away for that use case. But for other use cases, like, hey, I want to watch a box set of a show right now. Used to go to DVDs, nowadays we go to Netflix. But if you've got this capability with great search, and if you're cloud DVRing all the things you might be interested in, they're at your fingertips, then that use case is very different, right? You stop and say, hey, I want to watch a box set of great TV content that I like. Well, it's there on your Comcast DVR. So what role does Netflix play in that world? It's quite different, right? It's less valuable to you, less valuable. And therefore, you start to think about what will the world look like in 5 years. The future's here. Just go spend a bit of time with it and ask these thought exercises.
I think you're getting at something that I wanted to say, which is that I think when we say that the younger generation or people who may be currently cutting the cord would have cable if they want it, that what they would have is access to all of the content that they want.
Correct.
It may not be packaged up in the way that we know cable today. Now, that's not me saying cable is going to die, just to make that clear, because it's absolutely alive and absolutely will continue to be alive. The multi-channel world is needed.
You can spot a Comedy Central show from a mile away, can't you? Well, once upon a time, yes. In this new environment that we're in, not necessarily. And so we need to go back and look at these things. Certainly our more mature franchises, especially the ones that predated our SVOD agreements, fared much better in this question. However, Broad City, for example, extremely popular, both on our network, on all of our O&O apps and websites, and everywhere else it happens to be. It happens to be a lot of places. And here we see 2 seasons in that only 1 in 3 viewers of Broad City could correctly connect it back to Comedy Central.
And if you really want to understand the future, if you really want to forecast how things are changing over time, rather than study the technology, study the generational currents which are actually guiding people to choose this or that technology that they decide is cool. And typically that means choosing a certain kind of viewing experience. And that is leading to what I pointed out earlier, a huge renaissance in multi-generational family living. Tens of millions of young people living with their parents that used to live alone. I think that's one of the most stunning shifts and unrecognized shifts that's going on today.